Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Eastchester Board of Fire Commissioners for Tuesday, June 18th, 2019. Tonight's meeting was called to order at 6:30 and immediately moved into executive session. Would now like to look and resume public session, so I would make a motion for that and look for a second.
So be it.
Mr. Laurie, all in favor?
Aye.
Great, wonderful. So before we begin with tonight's agenda, I would just like to take a moment to recognize the success that was this evening's inspection and dedication ceremony, highlighting not only the members of the Eastchester Fire District, but also the dedication and ceremonial welcome of our 3 new pumper engines. Special thank you to Chief Tween and Secretary Gutierrez for their hard work in piecing together the evening, its program, schedule, and organization. So thank you both for all the work you did for that. Thank you to all our volunteers and paid members who were there to share in the night. Thank you to our commissioners here, Mr. Laurie, Mr. Roach, and Mr. Carlo, for being on hand. The first order of business for tonight will be the approval of the minutes. The board has received and reviewed the minutes prepared by our secretary and will move to approve them. We would make a motion now for the approval of both the May 14, 2019 regular meeting minutes and the May 29, 2019 special meeting minutes. I would make that motion and ask for a second.
So be it.
Mr. Laurie, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next, our treasurer's report. Jamie?
Thank you. Today we're looking at the financials through May 31st. They currently present a net budget surplus of approximately $440,000. As usual, this is predominantly due to timing issues. We have not received, although we have been notified of many pending certs, but we've only had a few hit so far. Payroll timing, and then there are certain expenses that are trending lower than expected, our professional consultant fees being one of them. No budget transfers for tonight. We'll continue to monitor our use of the accounts, and I will recommend them again likely in a few months. As far as other matters, we have received our final audit work papers. They are available in the front office. They are also available through FOIL if anyone is interested in receiving a copy. I would say some of the main things to highlight this year are that we did assign funds. It's probably something we should have done historically, but to make our financials more reflective of our goals and our intentions, we have assigned funds for certain things that we plan to purchase. We knew going into the budget this year, we had assigned $1 million from our surplus to use for a ladder truck, which hopefully will be in process shortly, as well as the timing issue that we have from when the year ends versus when we receive our taxes. So when our financials at the end of the year seem to say we have $9 million that we just have free floating around, that money, over half of that money actually is earmarked to get us through until the next tax collection, because we don't collect our taxes until May. So that's what has allowed us to operate without needing a TAN for the last few years. So this year on our financials, you will see that the fund balance is assigned appropriately, making the so-called surplus look much more reasonable, much more in line with what it is, and under $2 million. And recommended by our auditors and the comptroller, that is generally what they recommend you have on hand, as it's typically our monthly operating expenditures in a given month. So that'll be one of the big differences. That is also one of the auditor recommendations that you'll see. So we did that, and the other audit recommendation was the appraisal, which we did have conducted last month, and we are waiting on the actual results of that, but the on-site work was finished. The next thing is, per last month's meeting, the board directed me to begin investing in Treasury Direct, which is the treasury bills through the government. We agreed to invest $12 million in $3 million tranches. So there's one auction once a week. So as of today, we have all $12 million invested. Our first reinvestment will happen next week. So right now they're set that every 4 weeks the money will come back into our account and then will be reinvested in the treasury bills. That's the way it's set up per our discussion. Reinvestments can be stopped at any time, so at your direction if there's anything you want to change. I don't know if there's, everything is working smoothly. It's working, fine. Like, we'll see next week. That'll be the first time it gets, we get the interest back into our account and then the money taken back out. I have no reason to think it won't go as it's supposed to. So I don't know if there's interest from the board in looking to put additional money in at this time, or if we're comfortable till the next meeting just riding with the 12 million as planned. We do have some additional room, at least for the next few months. If there was interest in doing maybe another 3 million, that would probably be the max I would recommend at this time. But that's, up to the board.
Yeah, I would say just leave it for a month and then see later on if it's, have we seen how much interest is prospectively coming back in the first run?
It's just about, like, just over $5,000 for a 4-week period, so pretty good.
Yeah.
And I did look into the fees with Chase, because we did talk about, the offset of fees, and our monthly fees with Chase are generally running around like $1,500, so even if you did put yourself in a position where you were paying the fees, the interest is far outweighing it. I would also say, because we started this later in the year, we probably already have enough earnings credit built up that you wouldn't see the fees yet anyway. But again, I don't know if maybe you want to wait for the full board or whatever.
Yeah, maybe perhaps we can discuss it. Does anybody have anything?
I would only suggest, when is the first 3 million have to come back out? In other words, not reimbursed. Have you projected down the road? Is it going to be September, October, where you've said, okay, well, we can no longer invest this money in?
Yeah, it would probably be around, I don't even know if it would be by then. I can look at that and say when it would be that we can't reinvest it and we have to keep it now.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think that would be until the end of the year.
So I would say, if it's working nicely, why not? If we have the spread and the interest rate is so much better, put another 3 million in, just as long as you have in the back of your head when it has to not be reinvested. And I think that you shouldn't have to come to the board to ask that because of the delay in meeting times, that when you recognize that, okay, now is the time I won't reinvest this week's.
Okay.
You should just do that. So you always make sure you have an adequate balance on hand.
Well, I would assume that it would be more responsible for us to be advised that it's going on, because I would hate for it to create a past practice where the discretion is completely to reinvest without us being advised of what it is.
Right.
So if maybe it has to be some kind of systematic notice to go out to the board members to advise them that we have an opportunity to invest this amount of dollars. If there's any strong feelings against that, then we should either get together or voice that.
Yeah, and I can prepare a schedule of when
Right.
we'll need to,
And
take
Commissioner
an
Roach
investment
brings up a
back.
good point about what time we would need to kind of cut that off, because at the end of the year, we do find ourselves needing to kind of pay some bills that are almost always have to be there, and we want to make sure that money's there. Plus, if we have the good fortune of having construction costs or engineering
right.
funds coming through, and we need to pay anything, we want to make sure we have that ability to do so.
Yeah, that's right.
And not
Well, and
have to
that's-
pull money out short of the maturity date to cover that.
Right, and that's why there does need to be some communication, because I know what we run at typically, our monthly expenses, but to the extent there's going to be a board decision that says, this month we're paying a roofer $300,000, that's obviously going to be an important
Right.
piece of
I think we
information.
could work it out.
So there was really two questions. The first one was, should we invest more money now? And so should we address that, or do we want to put that off? Because if we put it off, we might as well just be happy with what we have,
Right.
because within a couple of months, we'll be start taking out again. And so what do we
If you
want?
feel that an additional $3 million is not going to put us
Yeah,
in a
that's what I'm
position where we have to pull anything out before maturity, I would go along with that. I would just want to make sure that we have that, certainty.
Okay,
So that'd be my opinion.
So I would second that we do an additional investment, and that at the next meeting, you provide us with a plan of when you're planning to withdraw it. In other words, stop the reinvestment to put it back in the account. And then when we have a hold of that, we'll be in good shape.
Anthony, you have it?
Agree with Tom.
Cool? Agreed. All right, so.
Thank you,
go ahead.
Jamie.
And then I believe it's on the agenda for later, but we do still have to make a decision on the workers' comp renewal, because it renews July 1st, so this would be the meeting where we have to decide. And if we are going with PERMA, if that's the board's decision, then I would just need to know whether or not we are going to prepay, which is what we've done historically to take advantage of the 2% discount.
Sure.
Then the last thing I have, just a notice, is that this is the time of year where we receive the small claim assessment review cases. This is like the certs, except these are for individual homeowners, so where the certs can be for a period of 10 or 12 years, these are only for 1 year. So it's, I said last year we paid out about $13,000 to 75 homeowners. So it's really more of an administrative project than a large cost, but just to make you aware that the town notified me last week that we should be receiving those any day.
Great.
But they're built into the budget, so.
All right, wonderful. The only other comment would be is our audit has to be filed with the town.
Yes.
So we'll take care of that within the week or
Yeah, sure.
next 10 days? Okay.
Yep.
Great. Thank you, Jamie. Okay, so with that being said, I'd like to bring up the workers' compensation PERMA matter that Jamie just mentioned. The district's insurance agent, Arthur Gallagher and Company, have sought proposals for workers' compensation coverage. 2 out of the only 3 coverage agencies that represent fire districts in the state of New York responded. Of the 2, Public Employer Risk Management Association, more readily known as PERMA, has presented the most cost-effective option for the district at this time at a reduced rate of $325,054, which includes us taking the advantage of a 2% prepayment discount. The renewal term of this coverage would begin on July 1, 2019, and continue through June 30th, 2020. I would make that motion and ask for a second.
Second?
Commissioner Roach, any discussion on that? No? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Next is payment of bills. The board has reviewed this month's bills and warrants and makes a motion to pay them. The first set of warrants are dated May 23rd, 2019, totaling $221,327.15. The second set of warrants dated June 18th, 2019, totaling $354,704.91, and a credit card bill dated June 18th, 2019, totaling $1,068.13. The total monthly total is $577,410.19. I would ask for a motion to pay those bills. Commissioner Roach, second.
On the motion, Chief, could you tell me that we are still, according when this first started, saving that much money with an outside mechanic? I just saw some of the bills for this month from the mechanic work, and to me, they are way up in the sky. Are we actually saving money the way this thing was presented, the not reinstate the mechanic?
I didn't know you were going to ask that question. I don't know that an analysis has been done, but one thing you have to remember in the bills, a lot of the things that you see in there are parts. So if you compared what the bills from Ruscon were, you would have to back out the parts cost if you were going to just compare the labor.
Yeah, but don't forget, this man gets paid from the time he leaves his garage across the Tappan Zee
Yeah, there's
until the
absolutely
time he
travel times.
until the time he leaves and returns there. And I seen these bills tonight, and I can't believe that we're saving anything. Just my opinion.
Right.
It's not anybody else's opinion. But I think we're going to have to start looking into this more closely and consider getting a mechanic. Even if we get a part-time mechanic, I think we'll still be saving a lot of money. There's over $15,000 just this month in bills on apparatus. All right, maybe we'll be saving a lot more now that we got 3 new engines. But still, I know if a man changes a light bulb on one of these pieces of apparatus, it's not $10 or $15.
Sure. And, you know, you get the service immediately when you have your own in-house mechanic, where
Thank you.
we don't have to wait 3 or 4 days for Ruscon to be available. Or now that we have the new rigs, we were hoping we would have less service calls because we have brand-new apparatus. So hopefully some of the service won't be necessary because of the new apparatus. But they also took care of, you know, the maintenance guy took care, or the mechanic took care of the saws, the pumps, all the other, you know, in-service things that we now send out to other vendors. You know, Ruscon only does the diesel apparatus. They don't do the cars and the small tools. So,
Like I
I mean,
said,
we could do an analysis. I would ask Jamie's help to try to figure it out, what the cost would be for a, you know, fire department mechanic, if that's the wish of the board.
Well, I don't know what the other board members think, but I personally think even if we had a part-time mechanic, we would be saving a lot more money.
All right, well, I think it's worth it. We can have that discussion.
Okay, sometime we'll have
try
it.
and-
Okay, sure.
Did you recognize what rigs were being worked on?
Yes, they were the older ones too, but I'm still, Tom, if we had a mechanic here like we used to have, we wouldn't have this much cost. I know that. I mean, the man used to go pick up the parts himself, put them in. Maybe it'd take him a little longer, but we wouldn't have these kind of costs, never. And the man that we had, we'll never get again, you know. The man did everything, aside from mechanical work. He even did the plumbing around here, he did the taping around here, he did the electrical work around here. He was a jack of all trades, the man.
So now we do have a maintenance facility.
Yes, I know, but I'm just.
Does that. So if we're
Yeah.
talking about just strictly mechanic,
Mechanical work,
to
right.
work on engines and
Right.
other apparatus.
Like I
I think
said-
we've had some conversations about that before. There may, in fact, be an opportunity down the road where it could
I hope
become a
so.
shared service.
Yes.
I think several municipalities have expressed an interest in considering the idea of bringing in some people into the fold who would be, their focus would be mechanics, and they would work on our fleet as well as that other municipality's fleet, whether it be village, town, or school district. And there could be a shared services opportunity there, and I think it's something that I'm certainly happy to look into and see if there's a real opportunity there, as long as the district and the board eventually finds that it's a worthwhile pursuit. But as the chief mentioned, when it comes to parts and everything like that, you'd have to back that out of any bill and try and see what the labor cost is. And if the labor cost ends up being kind of the same as if we would pay otherwise, then we have to see if there's a result in
Right,
doing
because
that.
Obviously, the consortium is a good idea.
Yeah, so maybe there'll be an
vehicles.
opportunity for us to do that. I don't know if any of the other municipalities use Ruscon for anything, any other high equipment. I don't know if the garbage, they
Not
they
in
work on
town, but
garbage
Fairview
trucks.
Fire Department does use Ruscon, and a couple other departments in Westchester
Tarrytown
use
uses them
Ruscon,
too.
Tarrytown.
Maybe there's an
Tarrytown,
opportunity there if we were to put something together with those
Harrison
fire
uses them
districts
too.
and say, you know, together, we'd like to try and see if we can work out a labor cost, but parts are parts, as the chief said. But yeah, we'll take a look at it.
Okay.
Just add it to the list.
Just brought it to your
Yeah,
attention.
add it to the list of things we're gonna try and move forward with. Okay, so I'm looking for a second on the bills.
Already second.
You gave me the motion, I need a second. Are you oh, okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No, okay, motion carries. Chief, your report.
Thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome.
The monthly activity report for May 2019. Total alarms was 342 for the month, 9 fire-related, 197 EMS or rescue calls, and mutual aid was given to the city of Mount Vernon 2 times where we stood by at their Station 3. The installation work for the light path tie lines continues. Fiber optic cables have been run and terminated at most of our locations. Light path has now secured the property access agreement for 235 Garth Road, and the installation work may begin at that location. After discussion with Light Path, they will hold off on activating the lines until all the installation is completed, which avoids us paying for the lines prior to be able to put them in service. I asked the board to approve the ESS quote for radio and computer equipment. The Cisco switches was a concern of the board at last month's meeting. So on the new contract or the new proposal, the Cisco switches have been backed out, and the total amount of the quote for the radio equipment we need to connect the new tie lines is $14,599.73. And then we'll just, through Amazon or researching, we'll get the Cisco switches at another location, and our vendor will install them with the rest of the equipment. Vehicle maintenance continues through the use of outside vendors. Maintenance mechanic Tim Dalton has been busy with several projects, as well as coordination of getting the 3 new pumpers in service. And also thanks to Tim for his help with today's dedication and inspection. He did a lot of work moving stuff around, and so Tim was very helpful today. The 3 new Pierce engines, as we said, have been placed in service. There was a few items that are now being corrected. Firematic Supply, the local Pierce dealership, was at headquarters today and fixed a problem on engine 31. It was a loose connection, so they had some electrical problems. Hopefully that resolves it, and it'll be put in service tonight. Fire prevention and code enforcement activities continue with numerous plan reviews and inspections. The new, more detailed fire prevention activity reports are being submitted to the secretary, which will give the board a better idea of the daily activities conducted by the fire prevention staff. Currently, there are 2 members out on long-term absence. 1 member that had been out on long-term absence has now returned to work on restricted duty. There are 3 Eastchester High School students conducting their WISE internship with the EFD. Joseph Taylor, Andrew Williams, and Jack Bryan will be completing their internships this Thursday, June 20th. And they will be presenting their WISE projects at Eastchester High School at the WISE Showcase tomorrow night and Thursday night at the Eastchester High School Old Gymnasium. On Thursday, June 13th, Group 3, under the command of Captain Yazzo, responded to a house fire. Fortunately, the residents were not home, and there was only property damage to the house. Upon arrival, the members encountered heavy smoke and fire in the kitchen area, with extension to the home's exterior and a second-floor bedroom. The members stretched and operated 3 hose lines to extinguish the fire, and many of the members went through 2, 3, or even 4 Scott bottles. So it was an older house with wood and plaster, wood lath and plaster walls and ceiling, so when they have to go looking for the hidden fire, it's very labor intensive, and everybody is to be commended for their efforts and good job at the fire. And I appreciate 10 people were called in on recall to give the guys that were at the scene relief, and they were even helping extinguishing, so it was nice to see the guys come back in and helping out. It was a warm day, so the guys after the fire needed some relief, so I appreciate the efforts of the guys and the whole fire department, the women, Tina, and everybody else that was there. The 4th of July is approaching, and I would like to advise the residents that every year 13,000 people are treated in an emergency room for injuries resulting in the mishandling of fireworks. Handheld sparklers can burn at over 1,200 degrees. If people want to see fireworks, they should go to Tuckahoe Fireworks by Grucci, which are being held on Saturday, July 14th at the Parkway Oval. And if they do buy sparklers, which in certain parts of New York State, it's legal to buy them, any children using sparklers or fireworks should have adult supervision. And respectively submitted today.
Thank you, Chief. And to echo your comments, the guys did extremely well at that fire, and we thank them for their service as always and doing what we depend on them to do every day whenever the call comes.
And no mutual aid? You didn't receive mutual aid?
We had mutual aid to headquarters, but we didn't have to call them to the scene. We were very close to calling them to the scene because we had it knocked down, and because it was a balloon frame house, it lit up in a second floor closet, and then the bedroom caught on fire. So at that point, people had already gone through 2 bottles. The guys, put on another bottle and went back in and knocked down that fire quick. And so, but I was very close to calling a second alarm. So.
All right, great. Thank you, Chief. Next item is a motion here. Approval for the chairman of the board to approve and execute the sales agreement between the Eastchester Fire District and ESS Inc. of 250 Clearbrook Road, Elmsford, New York, for the purchase and installation of new district-wide radio infrastructure and approved related hardware at the cost of $14,599.73. The board calculated these funds and made same available in the adopted 2019 budget. I will make that motion and ask for a second.
Second.
Mr. Roach, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Chief, you're all set there.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Just winding down here. So Chester Heights, excuse me, according to BJB Construction, 95% of their punch list was completed as of June 11th, 2019. They have indicated that there is a delay with some welding and pipe work, as well as a few electrical fixtures that need to be replaced and others that may need to be adjusted. We are hoping that that is a process that will wind down for real before the end of July, so fingers crossed there. At our last meeting, the board approved its accepting of a proposal from UES Engineers to design and map out the next phase for the interior of Chester Heights and for the Bronxville Firehouse roof. Today, we've been advised that that contract has been delivered. So with that said, I'm happy to be able to say that it looks like we're going to have the next step in our next 2 phases of construction moving forward relatively soon. So we will give you an update as to when the next phase occurs as far as planning and engineer planning and all those next steps, probably at our next meeting. Finally, yes, so one other notice. The Eastchester Fire District, along with all the neighbors of the property located at 249 Main Street in Eastchester, have been advised that a public hearing will take place on Thursday, July 27th at 7 p.m. in Eastchester Town Hall. The purpose of this public hearing will be for neighbors and residents such as our district to voice any and all concerns or objections to the building applicant noted as being Eastchester Manor Developers LLC and their site plan approval for a structure located at 249 Main Street, which is next door to our district headquarters and across the street from Value Drugs and Zuccarelli's Deli parking lots, if you need some reference. As of this evening, the initial plan is to construct a residential 15-unit multifamily edifice supported by 26 parking spaces. We would advise anyone from the public that has concerns either in support or in objection to this construction to make their way to this hearing at that time. The fire district, of course, has some specific concerns about the obstruction of the front of the building, garage, traffic and street closures, work hours, and a laundry list of concerns that may increase in size over the next coming week. So with that, I would provide a motion to the board to authorize the Eastchester Board of Fire Commissioners as individuals, as well as Chief Tween and the Office of Fire Prevention, to consider and be permitted to attend and represent the Eastchester Fire District at the Town of Eastchester's public hearing scheduled for June 27, 2019, to present the Eastchester Fire District's concerns about that construction to be discussed located at 249 Main Street in the Town of Eastchester. And I would ask for a second for that, and then we can have any discussion.
What do you mean you want the board?
We've been advised that we should have the board be approved as a motion representing the district, that if anybody would like to attend that meeting, including any individual commissioner, the chief, or fire prevention, to voice concerns about that pending construction, to be entitled to do so and empowered to do so by the board. So they would be operating on behalf of us, which we could then decide who would go. But those groups of people would be where that representation would come from.
Okay.
So I would look for a second on that.
I'll second that.
All right, Mr. Roach, any discussion further on that? All in favor? Aye, and opposed? Okay, great. Local 916, anything? No report. Volunteer? Mr. Vichy, sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
I just want to bring up the May 26th Department Memorial Service.
Okay.
Everybody kind of was amazed at the plaque that was set for Vinnie Spadaro. I'd like to thank Tim Dalton for doing an outstanding job on that. Nobody really gave him any heads up, but he did an outstanding job. It looks great, and a lot of people, even outside guests, thought it was a great little dedication to our normal service. July 2nd, we're participating in the Village of Mamaroneck Parade, and we're asking for the shop truck for the hose cart and an apparatus of the chief's choice for that evening. The other thing is, in the future, a trifecta like tonight would be a little bit better if it would be broken up. For the simple reason, when you have blessing of the fleet or wet down, like we call it in the fire service, it's usually on a Sunday afternoon. You get the community involved, you get all the firefighters, all the families, and it's a fun experience so that everybody could see, including the taxpayers who actually bought the apparatus for us. And just something to think of going forward when whatever the next new piece of apparatus is.
It's another 25 years from now.
Right. Okay, well, thank you.
Knock on wood, it'd be 25 years.
Thank you for your comments, appreciate it. Commissioners, any?
I just have one thing to say. I also want to thank Tim Dalton. I helped him bring the hose cart down here, and I really got to say, I appreciate all the work he did with the maintenance truck coming down here. And Lisa, also for your help, and Jamie's help for what you did down there. The place looked very nice. Just one thing I wanted to mention. This thing turned out to be very nice, and I liked it. But the only thing I had to say, there was no mention of any of the volunteers in here. I just thought that maybe they should have been mentioned, that the different companies or the volunteers, you know. Otherwise, the program was set very well.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? No? All right. Well, again, I thought, the event went well. I thank everybody for attending, and it was nice to see. When was the last time we had any kind of event like that?
Oh, it's got to be around 1991, I think.
So I think there's a little bit of a learning curve, considering I
Yeah.
don't think anybody here was on the board at the time the last one happened. But I do appreciate everybody for showing up and at least respecting the day and understanding what it was about. So I thank you. I would make a motion to move into executive session and ask for a second.
Second.
Mr. Carlo, all in favor? Thank you. Thank you very much.